Rosa Parks and John Conyers have a history that may not be familiar to a lot of people. There were many things that happened after Rosa Parks resisted giving up her seat to a white man on a bus that we all know went into history. So the incident happened on December 1st, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama. And that's where Rosa Parks and her husband resided at the time. The bus driver, his name was James F. Blake, had ordered her out of her seat and told her to sit in the colored section so that a white man could fill her seat. And as we know, she absolutely refused to get up. After working hard all day, her feet were sore, and Rosa just did not want to move. And I don't blame her. Get up and give your seat to this white man. That's stupid. It is stupid that you even came up with such policies even back then. That's silly. And there's a lot of us that reflect back and would not have done the same thing. That is ridiculous. But this is how segregated America worked. What many of you may not know, as a result of that bus boycott, yes, people stopped riding the bus, but there was much more that happened beyond that. You may not know that white America tried very hard to make sure Rosa Parks and her husband were never employed again. They couldn't find work anywhere in Alabama. They couldn't. So they tried to financially break Rosa Parks and her husband for what she did. Are we surprised? You shouldn't be, because this is how they function to this very day. You do something they don't like, they'll be the first ones trying to run you off of a job. It still occurs today. But see, Rosa Parks' story, ladies and gentlemen, is a shining example of, if we all stick together and have each other's back, nothing they do will be even close to being effective. So Rosa Parks and her husband left out of Montgomery, Alabama, and they went up to Detroit. And she was looking for work there, of course. She was looking for similar work that she did down in Alabama. And for a brief moment, she did find work. And her husband, who was there with her, quite naturally, he was having a hard time finding work. So she finally met John Conyers. She met John Conyers. And John Conyers hired Rosa Parks to be his receptionist and secretary. And a lot of people don't know she worked for John Conyers from 1965 until 1988. He had her back. And she was an active member of the Black Power movement. And she also spoke up about all of the Black political prisoners in this country that were just being jailed over their political views. So Rosa Parks never stopped. Once she got into activism, she never stopped. She did it all throughout her life. And she finally left this place at the age of 92. She got to live to the ripe old age of 92 years old when she died on October 24th, 2005. Rosa Parks and what she did on that 1955 day will never, ever be forgotten. And let's just talk about her background. You know, one thing about Rosa Parks, my son looked at her and he said, I know she got black, but what else is there? There's a lot of people in the South that look like Rosa Parks, and there's a reason for that. It is the result of rape. Whenever you see people, especially during the time when she came along, you know, Rosa Parks was born on February 4th, 1913. All right. And in those times, there were a lot of mulattoes in the South. This is something that is never hardly spoken about. You know, I'm going to reflect back on something that my grandmother had said to me. She was telling me because, at one point in time, they would only hire black men and women for domestic work, just another way of keeping you in slavery, because that's all that is. So if you got hired after slavery, you could only, be a domestic worker and all that crap, always trying to do everything they can to keep you a slave. So, anyway, my grandmother was telling me about a time when, just a brief time, because she eventually became a school teacher, and that was really the reason why she did not want to be in white people's houses working. So she was saying that these white women were out on the porch at a house that she worked at, and they got into, oh, I don't believe in race mixing, I don't believe in all this. No. My grandmother finally turned around and said, well, where did all these mixed children come from? And she looked at them and said, well, somebody up in here must believe in it. Look at all these mixed kids running around here. In the county that my grandmother worked in, they had listed 800,000 mulattoes. Okay. They didn't get there for no reason. Somebody was laying around with somebody. Let's be real here. So she said they never opened their mouths about that subject matter around her again. But not long after that, my grandmother went back to school and she got her teaching certificate because she said she just didn't want to work as no domestic worker. So she got into school, work and teaching and everything, and that's how she got away from it. And the school children she taught were always all black. And she taught until 1957. That's when she finally retired from teaching. So back to Rosa Parks. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a lot of people. I even had people in my family that looked similar to Rosa Parks, and it was because of all the rapes that took place down in the South. So, Rosa Parks, she had, of course, a black parent that's believed to be her mother, and her father is listed as Scottish Irish. Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, these people knew all this stuff was going on down there. You know, That's why I laugh when people from the South be talking about miscegenation and race mixing. Shoot, the South is the race mixing capital of the world. Okay, let's be real. Y'all are the race mixing capital of the world, especially down there in the South. Y'all need to miss us all with that talk. For real. You need to miss us all. So, moving on. So the bottom line is, Rosa Parks, what she did on that day, some people might not see as a big deal, but actually during those times, it really was. There were so many Jim Crow laws on the books. I think I'm surprised they didn't have on there that a black man or woman or child is not allowed to blink in public. I'm serious. It was really that ridiculous. And during civil rights, these folks fought like hell to keep those laws in place. And they're still doing it, y'all. They're just doing it in a covert way. Anytime you get in trouble on a job for the same thing that a white person is doing, that's exactly what they're doing. They're still practicing the Jim Crow without doing it out in the open. But they have never stopped doing these things. Never. Or when I was working, there was a case here in my state where a white manager would write up only black employees, but white employees that were doing the same exact thing, he wasn't writing them up. And finally, they filed a lawsuit on the company over that, and they won. These employees, they won. So, Jim Crow is still here in a sense. They just do it in a covert way. But all the ridiculous, I mean, look at policing. Every time they stop a black man or woman, it's always for some stupid reason. And then you see the rest. Well, they should have complied because in their minds, you should just go along with Jim Crow. What's the problem? Why are you not going along with the Jim Crow that we're still trying to inflict on you? And that's exactly what's happening. So my hat's off to Rosa Parks. You know, what she did was show the entire country how ridiculous the laws and policies were against the black community back then. We all knew it was bad, but that bus boycott, America will never, ever, ever forget because the impact of it was so bad and they lost so much money. They had to drop that policy because the cities were going to go bankrupt if they didn't. This concludes my podcast for today. Be sure to check every single day for my new ones that I post because we know how funny style YouTube can be about the notifications. Peace, family.